Good afternoon, everyone. James Hicks here from Hicks New Media. Welcome to another episode of Perspectives in Focus. Today, very exciting day, incredibly exciting day. My guest today is an engaging and enthusiastic speaker. Her universal appeal makes her messages timely and timeless. Timely, relevant news of the day, right? The motto for infotainment news, so it's perfect to have this person on. She has a knack for providing information in a humorous and fun way. Her belief is that laughter and learning are not mutually exclusive. With themes of self responsibility, looking at the bright side, finding your passion, gratitude, and having a zest for living, her talks and keynotes are in incredible high demand. She lives by the philosophy that every person deserves to be happy at home and at work. And that philosophy completely embodies everything that she does, from being the president at Happy People Win to everything that she does in her personal life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jean Steele. Jean, how you doing?
You didn't even say that we're friends. Is that not allowed?
Oh my goodness, we are very close friends, but I tried to be somewhat professional. I
Oh,
told you I
okay.
even cleaned up, right?
I
I
know.
I had to bring you on the right way with some good information. I think
Okay.
I cover about at least 50% of it, because you are. Look, it's hard to write a good elevator pitch for Gene Steele, so that I had to do it.
That was lovely.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Hi, you doing good today?
Yeah, I was absolutely looking forward to this. It's fun to talk to a friend.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but I was a
And
little nervous.
don't be nervous. Look, so the idea today is what we were is going to be all about you again, like kind of like I was saying behind the curtain. I'm gonna flip the lights on and let's just have a Gene Steele moment. It's every other conversation I've done. It's been easy to come up with a specific set of questions, a specific topic, or whatever. But your world and your life has been such a culmination, melting pot of all aspects, right? You've lived overseas, you've lived in Asia, you've lived in Africa. We can talk a little bit about that, and the fact that your motivational speeches, your keynotes that you give to businesses and individuals really help, and I think are very relevant today because of the type of situations that we're in, right? There's a lot of negativity in the world, and folks either aren't feeling positive about themselves, about their work, about their personal, about their professional, whatever the case may be. So you find that ray of light, that ray of sunshine, and that hope, and you give those to the individuals that you talk about. Talk to us a little bit about, I guess, let's start with how this whole 6 month period, however long it's been, that we've kind of been shut down a little bit, how that's affected you, one personally, and if so, how professionally as well.
Hmm. Well, it's really weird because someone was telling me the other day that they said, time's been going so fast. And I said, I don't even know what day it is. And they go, I know. And I said, no, I'm not talking about what day of the month. I'm saying I don't even know what day of the week it is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of been a blur. And it's funny because in the beginning when this started, so I had probably about a dozen keynotes for March and April, and they moved them to November and December, which is
Okay.
funny now. But when you think about it, in the beginning, we never thought we would be shut down at the end of this year.
Right.
And it's just gone on and on. And we don't know how to handle this. My sister has some interns from Cal Poly. We live near San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, and they're either late teens, early 20s. And they said to my sister, how did you handle this last time there was a pandemic? And Mary goes, yeah, I've never lived through a pandemic. And they go, really? And she goes, no one knows how to handle this. And I'll tell you how I've been able to handle it better. I spent a month last year in Uganda, and I got very close to a lot of the people I met over there. And I get up in the morning from a comfortable bed. I go to my refrigerator where I have food, and I make my breakfast. And those few things right there remind me how fortunate I am.
Yeah.
And I don't minimize anything anybody in the United States is going through, but we have so much to be grateful for, because so many of my friends who I met over there have nothing, and they're not working, and they have dirt floors, and they don't have electricity, they don't have running water. They have to walk for miles to fill up a plastic container for their water.
Yeah.
And we're pretty lucky in the scheme of things. And
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of Americans realize that. We don't realize that there's still people in the world who have literally nothing, and interestingly are full of joy.
It's amazing, right? Because you think about it, we live in a world or in a society of abundance, so we think you have to have that latest and greatest, whatever the case may be. But if you just have those core pieces of faith, family, friends, whatever really matters, as opposed to something materialistic and things of that, you really can be happy. You don't have to be rich in dollars to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And those trips that you take, so the one you took to Uganda, that was for pleasure, right? As opposed to, because you typically travel back and forth across the globe, really just to get out of town every now and then, right?
Well, I travel nationally for work all the time. And one of the
Right.
things that I do is, if I do a keynote, it's generally less than an hour. And so I made a deal with myself years ago that when I do that, I will spend at least 3 extra days to travel the area that I'm doing.
Mm,
So when I spoke in DC, I stayed for a week, even though I spoke for an hour, because
yeah,
DC, there's so much cool stuff to
that's true.
see. And
Yeah.
so every year I go to a foreign country to do my passion, which is animal conservation. So I go over and learn about animal conservation, and I come back and talk about it in my keynotes, and oftentimes raise money for the organization and educate people that we are losing our favorite species. I mean, our
Yeah.
favorite animals, orangutans, are on the critically endangered list, and they are 97% our DNA. And for example, Benson, who was our driver in Uganda, I wrote him and I said, "What are you doing since there isn't any tourism now?" And he said, "It's very difficult. I have 2 children and I'm not working." And I
Wow.
said, "How much does it cost you per month for everything that you need to keep your
Yeah.
family afloat?" And it's less than $100 for everything.
Per
So
month.
in the course per month. So in the course
Wow.
of this, I sent him $500, and
Mm.
he cried. And if I asked a friend in the United States and where I live, it would probably be 5 grand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I told you this story about the toilets at the school in
Oh my
Uganda.
gosh. I see. This is why I've got you on, because we never know. I don't know where it's going to go. Now we're
You
talking.
don't have, we haven't
We're talking orangutans, and now we're in the toilet. Oh my gosh.
so we went to this school, and of course I fell in love with the students. There was about 1,000 students in the school, 600 boys, 400 girls. One man is in their kitchen, and all he did was start fires and cook these giant bowls of mush that the kids would get for lunch. So
Okay.
I said to the headmaster, "If you had one wish, what would it be?" And he said, "Toilets for the boys." What? And he said, "We don't have toilets for the boys." So I said, "How much would that cost?" And he said, "Something in the millions." And I said, "Oh, please have that be Ugandan money." And he said, "Yes, in the United States, it would be 22." So I said, "I'm going to go back to the United States. I'm going to raise $22,000 for you. I'll do a GoFundMe." And he goes, "For what?" And I go, "The toilets." He goes, $2,200.
Oh
I
my
go, "Oh my
gosh.
God." So I got home and I wrote him a check for 20. I didn't tell you, this is such a
No.
cool story. So I wrote him a check for $2,500 in case there was a problem. He sends me pictures. They are officially called jeans latrines.
I gotta go. I can't take it. She's
Yeah,
got toilets in Africa.
I am kind of There is Kasisi in Kasisi, Uganda, jeans latrines. And it
We
was
need a picture of
such
this.
a big deal. I do have a picture. And again, you can make such a difference. And, we all can do something. And
That's true.
I like doing the things that I know make an immediate difference. I mean, I donate to a lot of things. I donate to Mercy Ships and UNICEF and a lot of things that are the big organizations. But I also like knowing where my money goes directly. And I mean, I'm friends for life with these people over there. And it's lovely.
Yeah, let me ask. So where did that kind of mindset come from? I mean, was that something that was ingrained with you at a young age of always conscious on the environment, conscious on humanity, conscious on other folks and things of that, the caring nature? Is that something that you grew into maybe through college or what? When and where did that start with
You
you?
know, I think growing up in Africa really kind of taught me at a very young age there are have and have nots. And
Yeah.
both my parents instilled in me that we are very fortunate and we are here to help others. And it's interesting because my parents are not religious. We did not go to Africa as missionaries. We went as a supposedly State Department, and we found out later my dad was CIA. We didn't even know that when we were over there. And I was 7. I had a 4, 3, and 1-year-old sister, white blonde hair, living in Los Angeles during racial riots in the
Yeah.
early 60s. My dad moves us over to Ethiopia, and we had an amazing childhood. My brother was born while we were over there,
Okay.
and we really enmeshed with the Ethiopians. When we left, my dad started their police force over there, and when we left, they were in lines on the tarmac at the airport saluting my dad and crying, saying, "Our father's leaving us."
Mm.
And we did so much for the Ethiopians while we were there. And then we went to Asia, and we were always giving back. And that was kind of in our DNA. And it's interesting now, my siblings are all the same way. We all have jobs where we give back. And it isn't this whole, we don't take care of ourselves, we just give back. We have wonderful, full lives, but we just
Right.
realize that part of it is leaving the world a better place.
Well, and I think that actually makes you more of a fulfilled citizen, and
Mhm.
to actually be, yes, you've gotten yourself taken care of, right? You've taken care of what's immediate to you, and then what's in that immediate sphere of influence, right? But then you can't. I don't want to say you can't take it all with you, but you've got to be able to share your knowledge, your learning, your abilities with others around you as well. You can't. I don't also think that you can be a fulfilled person without giving back to society and community. I mean that's critical. That's part of being a happy, fulfilled person. I was thinking about your website, right? Again, that's why you named it that, probably, right? Happy people win.
Yeah, it's a choice to be happy. And I think that, a lot of people tell me, you're so fortunate you get to travel overseas. And I say, I am fortunate. And many people say, you're lucky you have the money. And I was talking to a friend about it, and I told him that I spent less than half of what he spent taking his family to Disneyland for 3
Wow.
days. I
Wow.
spent less than half of that going to Uganda for a month. I spent less flying to Indonesia than I spent flying from here, San Luis Obispo, to Humboldt in the same state.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
so we
crazy.
don't we don't really think that through. It's way cheaper to travel overseas. I mean,
Yeah.
I was getting massages when I was in Indonesia, $10 for an hour. I mean, the only reason I didn't get them 3 times a day is because that would be a little ridiculous.
We have some questions then, right? You know, why is Jean over here in the massage chair again? Okay. And I guarantee you, I believe she's watching right now. I'm sure my wife Jen would be right there with you, getting those massages, both of you with a mai tai or a pina colada in hand or whatever.
Absolutely. I said to my friends, do you think they will think it's creepy if I come back again? And they said, do you care? And I went, no, I don't, actually. Yeah.
That's
But I
good
think
stuff.
that, and it's funny because I am so not a roughing it person. And I do end up absolutely roughing it on these trips. So it does take me a while to get back to normal. And I joke with my friends that if they did a show, Survivor Motel 6, I would not be able to do it. And I have been in situations, I told my sister, I said, I almost died in the rainforest in Indonesia. She goes, you
Oh,
asked to die. That's a difference. And I go, well, either way, I almost died.
whoever perspective it is, I almost
Yeah,
died.
I
So
almost died.
take it for what it's worth. It's my
I
story
know.
against
Exactly.
anyone else's. Anyone
Yeah,
else.
exactly.
That's great. Now, your talks, and I guess if you can sum up, if someone didn't know or has only heard about you, right, in terms of what Gene Steele provides to an organization, to an individual, to whatever, how would you newly pitch Happy People Win to an
Mm.
organization, right? In terms of the value add, what's in it for them that you would bring to them? Because, and I'm saying it now because I think all of this that we've talked about already kind of ties in, just
Hmm.
because knowing your personality, knowing your mentality. How would you position Happy People Win and Gene Steele to an organization?
Well, I think, let me step back for a second. And what happened was I was working in a hospital and I was hired to design a preventative medicine program. And bottom line is they wanted to save money. So they thought if we offered a preventative medicine program and talked to people about what immunizations, screening, diet, exercise, all of those things, that their members would be healthier, they would save money, it would be win-win. And
Hmm.
I had a gentleman in the class who was what we termed a high utilizer. He was coming 6 to 8 times a month to see his primary docs and specialists. And he shared with me that when he turned 40, his health completely deteriorated.
Hmm.
And he was going to see so many physicians, and he had high blood pressure and he had heart disease and all of these different issues. And he attributed it to him turning 40. But when I talked to him more, it turned out that when he turned 40, his only child had broken her neck and she was paralyzed as a result from the waist down.
Okay.
And it was so interesting that he didn't think that something that happened to him externally that caused him stress could have any impact on his physical health. And unfortunately, his doctors, who were overworked, didn't even ask him what was going on. You go in for a migraine headache, they treat that. They don't say
Yeah.
what else is going on in your life.
Right. Right.
So I found out what happened, and we referred him to get some help psychologically. And I became so fascinated by the mind body connection. And I went back to school and I have my master's in wellness and mind body health. And I've had so many aha moments with that. Working, teaching, I taught at Sac State, I taught at Cal Poly here,
Hmm.
and a lot of my students had zero stress, and then there were finals, and they would get sick. I spoke at a wedding planners conference, and they said, "Oh my goodness, our brides wake up the most important day of their life with a migraine or start getting the flu." And so you really can see all around us that when there's external stressors, we tend to get sick.
Yeah.
And so I started a business recognizing that in the workplace, when people get stressed, and a lot of people have inherently stressful jobs. If you're in healthcare, if you're in law enforcement, you have inherently stressful jobs. And if you can do things to purposely make yourself feel happier or live a life of gratitude, find resilient skills, you will be happier in your life and less stressed at work. And so that's why I started the business. So I work with a wide variety of organizations and reminding people what they have to be grateful for. And I talk to nurses and I say, when someone comes up to you in the workplace, a family member, and says, thank you so much for helping my father through this. What they tend to do is, yeah, you're welcome, and walk on to the next patient. But instead, stop and listen to the appreciation and gratitude, because that's why you're doing the job. And we tend to just go from patient to patient, from call to call, and not stop and appreciate. I keep every note every college student has ever written me. And you know, one of the silver linings of this whole COVID thing is catching up with people that I'm grateful for in my life. And I urge everybody to make a list and to find old friends on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitch, whatever is happening now.
Wherever the kids are, wherever they are.
The kids are, and to contact and just catch up with people, because that's what life is about. My friend is a chaplain at UC Davis Medical and said no one on their deathbed ever says, did you see the Beamer in the parking lot? That's mine. Or MBA, Harvard. It's all about family and friends. And that to me is about having a grateful heart. And I think that's important. And that's kind of what my business is about. And I love getting the emails from people saying, you really made me think. Or I love when I do a keynote and afterwards people come up to me and say, I texted my husband during your presentation just to tell him that I loved him. And I have another cute story. Right before I did a keynote, my sister texted me and she goes, just want you to know I love you to the moon and back. So I shared it with the audience.
Yeah.
So this woman came up to me afterwards and she goes, I love that you said that. And so while you were speaking, I texted my three sisters separately and shared with them, I want you to know I love you.
Yeah.
So she said, do you want to see the responses? I said, yes. So the first one said, I'm freaking out. Call me immediately. The second one said, oh my God, are you okay? All three freaked out. She goes, well, I guess I need to tell them that more often. I go, apparently so. And I say, think about how people would react. I end every interaction with people I love with, I love you. It isn't just that I love you and not thinking about it. I think that's important. And I always say, I will not even have lunch with someone I don't enjoy. Life is too short.
I like that. I like that. I may actually write that down myself, because that's golden right there. And I was going to ask about when you're doing these keynotes to an organization, and I was going to ask, I think you just hit on it. Do you have the individuals that come up? Because again, you're talking to the whole wide audience, but then do you have the individuals that come up and say, "This really touched me in a specific way. This is helping me." But you definitely kind of touched on that as well, and that's the powerful piece, right? Because you're talking at the 50,000 foot level about strategies, but then there's something in your message that resonates with individuals. And anytime you're giving a show, a conference or a keynote, and the folks that come up to you afterwards to want to shake your hand and say, yes, Gene, you know what? Those are the folks that you know you got. You reached one, so you got them, right?
Oh, I had a man come up to me after I spoke, and he was crying. And he said, I don't want to say anything except thank you. And he walked away. And it was like, oh, my heart. And you never know what people's response is. And I always think I was there for them today. And
yeah.
It's interesting. I had another guy, I was teaching a college class, and he said to me, this whole class has been very confusing for me. He said, "This is the best class I've ever taken, and I'm really optimistic about my future. I have to tell you, my dad says you're full of shit." He said, he's the president of a bank, and he said, no adult likes their job. And I said, that makes me sad, because I had a role model growing up of a dad who loved his work.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not bullshitting you. I love what I do.
I love it.
And don't you? I like to surround myself with people who love what they do. It is exhausting to me to be around people who count the days to the weekend or till
Yeah.
their vacation. And
Yeah.
I don't even want to be friends with those people.
Yeah. You know, why wait till Friday? Why not enjoy each moment, each day that you
Yeah.
can? And you know, so I completely I agree with you on that as well. I tell my wife, I tell Jen this a lot of times, that I am satisfied, content. I'm very happy with what I do. Right? I could go out and again shoot for the moon, shoot for the stars, and do a whole bunch of different things. Got the skills, got the contacts or whatever, but the folks that I work with on a day-to-day basis, the things that I get to do, the work-life balance that I have, the freedom of, even though we're locked down right now, if I wasn't, I would be able to be home every single night, you know, cut the grass, help with the kids, and do all those things. Those things are more valuable than having whatever title, having whatever, you know, place in the Who's Who magazine, or you know, those types of things. So I really resonate with that message that you said just now there. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I was dating this guy who comes from a very wealthy family in Santa Barbara. And he graduated from Harvard and instantly made a lot of money. And I was working at a nonprofit in Santa Barbara. And one night he said to me, he goes, I find you so fascinating. You're very smart, and you don't make any money. And I said, you know, I'm not even 30, and I'm the head of this amazing program for Santa Barbara County. And he goes, yeah, but you don't make any money. So I sent him this poem about when you die, it's so cool to be remembered for, you know, making children laugh or making a public garden. And I never heard from him again, so I just assumed he lost my number. But it is interesting how in the United States we do tend to be impressed by things that do not impress me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm impressed by your heart and what you've done for people, not what kind of car you drive.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, so here's a challenge to you with that whole mentality and that mindset, because I love that and I agree with that. How are you finding the strength to stay positive, stay focused on those goals and that mindset in today's challenging world, right? I mean, there's political, social, economic, financial, so everything, right? I mean, if you look at the grand scheme of things, really, it's all not that bad. It's only this much that's bad, but this is what we focus on because this is what the news cycle focuses on. But how do you change that whole dynamic with folks in your circle of folks when you're talking to, and how do you stay focused again, knowing that all the major news networks are shooting you with just it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Yeah, there's some things that are happening that really need to be talked about and addressed, but how do you rise above that? How do you rise above that?
Well, a couple of things. One is I don't have a television. And I grew up without one. And then after 9/11, I got rid of it because I was obsessed watching 24/7, the planes crashing into the towers over and over. And there was absolutely no need for me to rehash the news over and over. And I was in a funk. And I donate a lot of money. And then I also will get calls and I'd say, instead of paying me, I'd like you to make a donation to one of my charities. which is really also win-win for me.
Yeah, I love that.
And another thing I did, and I started a new program called Happy People Power. And I interviewed 18 of my friends who are total badasses.
Yeah.
And to introduce them to the world. And it's a program that I just started, and I needed to be reminded that there are people out there who are resilient and who are doing amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
So like my friend Cameron, 15 years old, got stinking drunk, passed out on the railroad tracks, got run over by a train, lost both of his legs, and the wheels were so hot it cauterized the cuts, flipped him over, cut off his arm right here, and survived. And he is one of the most joyful people I know, when he could be just like laying in bed for the last 15 years being a total baby. He's going to Cal Poly, becoming a probably will end up being kind of an occupational therapist, physical therapist.
Okay.
And these people who are just so resilient, I'm introducing them to the world. And I need to be around those people so I don't get pulled into reading the negativity. Because we have the fires. We have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's one of my heroes, passing away. And so, and also to stay off as much as I can social media. I also started this thing, and I really think anybody can do this. So I was speaking at a conference in Arizona, and I met a guy there, Ken, who works with Children's Health Initiative. And he lives in Connecticut. I have another friend who lives in London who started a program. I want to introduce her to you, Leaders on Purpose. And she was working with Harvard, and they created something called the fourth sector. And it's companies who are looking at sustainability and equality as part of their parameters on how to judge their business, not just making money. It's making the world a better place. So she does that, and then two friends who live in Spain, and we have monthly calls on how to make the world a better place.
I love that.
And I hang up after each call and cry. It just makes me so happy. And so I think I need to do that. I need to surround myself with people who are killing it.
Yeah.
And who make me feel like, and there are people out there, and I'll tell you something I do, and people think it's so weird and funny, but it works. So one of my friends, Janet, writes for Huffington Post, and I love reading her stuff. So I wrote her an email, and I said, my name is Jean Steele. You are my favorite writer at Huffington Post. Please check the following. Will you be my best friend? Box. Yes. Box. No. And I sent it to her, and she wrote back and just checked yes. And people go, you're so weird. And I go, well, I want to know if she wanted to be my best friend. And so now we're friends. And people go, well, what if they don't write back? Well, it's their loss. And I've only had one person write back and go, I'm really busy. Well, too bad.
Too bad. Your loss.
Your loss.
You don't know what you're missing out on. You're missing out on this Gene Steele's what you're missing out on.
So there. But I just love meeting people, and I think everybody has a story. Everybody.
Yeah.
And you do too, huh?
I have the story, but I'm more focused on reaching out and pulling people in and letting them talk about themselves. Right? I think
you agree that everybody has a story.
Yes, I do agree, and I think everyone has a positive story that irregardless of whatever situations they've been through in life, there is a story that you can tell that either can help you or help someone around you that you tell it to, right? So that I think is something that has not happened enough, especially again during these traumatic and difficult times. Folks aren't expressing themselves and communicating the good as well as the bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think that we need to listen. I think that as a culture, we have forgotten how to listen. And I think that we need to listen if we're going to make any positive changes in this world.
yeah,
I also think, and this isn't a popular thought, but I see myself as a citizen of the world,
hmm
not just an American citizen.
hmm
And I think it's a dangerous place to be, to only care about us. I think we need to care about humanity.
I agree.
And it scares me the more I read about what we spend money on, that there's people who don't have enough to eat or don't have health care.
Yeah,
And we're spending money on crazy things.
agreed.
So,
Agreed. It's perspective, right? And again,
yeah,
it's kind of bringing it back into kind of the story of this series, perspectives and focus, which is why these longer thought-provoking conversations, that keeping that in perspective, because again we've got so much abundance here, and we really do, right? When you've got all you can eat restaurants, when you've got mall 30,000 square foot malls, and you can go and buy anything under the sun. You can order something from Amazon today and have it to your house that night, right? Just that convenience, that accessibility, but then you start taking that for granted. You get a different view and a different perspective of just life in general when you travel. And I'm fortunate enough to come from a military family to where, look, I've had more stamps in my passport before I was a teenager than many other folks. So I've been able to see Germany, Japan, Italy, these other places across the globe, right? And come back home and appreciate there and here, right? And kind of
yeah,
have the ability to engage with different personalities, have the ability to have conversations with different types of folks who agree and or disagree with me, because that's critical as well, right? Because you don't want to surround yourself with folks that are just yes sir, yes ma'am, yes folks in
I
your corner all the
agree.
time, right? You kind of want to have that challenge as well. Folks that disagree with you, I think, make you stronger and make you more healthy, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think that meeting as many people from all over as possible is so important.
Yeah.
So I became friends with a young man who is a keeper in a conservation center in Kampala in Uganda. And so I went to the Santa Barbara Zoo and I said, I want to bring him here. Can we do a trade and have one of your keepers go to Kampala? And they said, no, we can't do that risk management wise, but we will help you bring him over here. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, we were going to do it in the fall. And so I talked to all these people. We got a place for him to live. And he hasn't seen the ocean. He hasn't been on a
Wow.
plane. It's going to be
Oh.
total overload. I mean, he makes $3 US a day. He's going to freak going out and buying a loaf of bread that costs what he makes in a day. And so I think that, I don't know. There's so much I want to do. There's so
Yeah.
many people I want to introduce to each other. And I will tell you, I am not one of those old people that are talking about those damn youngsters. Thank God for the Generation Z. They are going to, we need that more young people in politics. They are going to be the
Yeah.
best thing that happens. And I will tell you too, one of the reasons I love the younger generation so much is because of your kids.
Oh.
Your
Thank you.
kids are phenomenal. And thank God for the younger generation. And little things like them not going to stay at their same job for 50 years. You know, the gold watches will be gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Their interest in so many fields, the ability for them to go online and learn about things, and not being so dogmatic, and just so many exciting things. And
yeah.
I'm not going to be around to see Jordan become president, but I know it will happen.
We were talking about her filling one of those 9 spots, though. You know, she's going into that field, so to speak. Political science, definitely righting wrongs and legal those types of things. So I know she's not going to the school you want her to go to, but I didn't want to wear any UCLA swag right now, but
I
but
love UCLA, but I just want her to be here because I could be her Central Coast mom.
that's true. That is true. But she's not too far, right? You know,
No, she's not too far. I could still go down.
yeah, yeah. But I agree. I mean, she's focused and she's aware of what's going on, and I think that whole generation, because all of the folks that she's tight with that are in her age group that she graduated with as well are very cognizant of what's going on socially, politically, economic, all of that across the board, right? And they're now at this point making their own voice heard, right? They've gotten to a point. They've graduated high school, or some of them are still getting in high school, and they're having a voice. Any kind of way, they're talking amongst themselves. They're sharing something online, but they're expressing themselves, and for the most part, it's positive, right? There are a couple of folks that you still got to kind of mold, or you got to put them on the right path. They're going down a rabbit hole, but for the most part, that generation really is aware of right and wrong and is looking for solutions. They're mobilizing, right? If there's any one word is grassroots that you could think about it as well, right? They are really trying to find a way that, you know what, some of these things are not right. We have to correct them. Some of these things are good. Let's keep them, and they're being very very active in their activism. So I'm especially proud to see that happening for the most part across the board. Yeah, yeah,
It's a crazy time. As you said, there's so much happening right now,
hmm
and where we can't go out, but we need to go out with. Um, I don't know. I do have to say that it can be overwhelming for me with so much going on, and I feel hopeless in a lot of it. I started volunteering in January for a group called Restorative Partners here, and I'm going to be a mentor to someone newly out of prison. And
okay,
that's what the training I'm going through. So I'm learning about the history of incarceration in our country, which is giving me a lot to be pissed off about. So
yeah,
this is not mentally healthy for me to be going through, but I am learning a lot. And so I didn't have any idea, which when I learn something new like that, it shocks me that I was so naive about so much.
hmm
And you sometimes think, can I learn any more? I don't know if I can handle any more of this negativity.
yeah,
Yeah, it's something that I do need to know. And it will help me at least help one person through this process of acclimating back into the world after being in prison. And so it's been very interesting learning about that. And it's also hard to go through a training online because I like the in-person stuff. It's
yeah.
been fascinating that I've been comfortable doing keynotes online because I am such a hugger, and I feed from the energy in the room. So it's
Yeah.
kind of shocking that I can do it online, but I'll probably continue to do some online because it's certainly cheaper to do it like this instead of flying out to Nebraska for a 50-minute keynote.
There you go. They don't have to pay for your airfare, right, and
I
everything, and they
know.
can add that more into your rate as opposed to paying for that Delta flight.
I know. Maybe. I didn't even know they had airports in Nebraska. Just
Oh my
kidding.
God! Oh my! All the Cornhuskers fans are going to be mad at us now. She's drinking wine, and it's 3. I'm drinking the coffee. So
What's a
hopefully,
cornhusker?
oh my! Look, again, she doesn't have a television, ladies. She's not a sports fan. Not a sports
And
fan.
this is diet. It is Coke Zero.
Very nice cup you got there. Okay, a little
No, I
incognito. Yeah.
well, I after Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill in high school,
Wow.
I cannot do wine. Oh,
She said Boone's Farm from Stra. Oh my gosh.
I know. You're too young to probably even know about that.
No, I know about some Boone's Farm and PBR and all those back in the day. But
Oh yeah,
those are bad memories. I don't want to memorize some of those.
yeah. They still have Boone's Farm. I just did a training for a company, and they sent me a case of it.
Boone's Farm costs 50 cents per bottle, or
No,
it's
it's
about a
high.
dollar.
It's high end now. It's $2.99. It's not cheap anymore. It's super expensive.
$2. Just go all out. I'm not gonna pay you in cash, but Gene, what we're gonna do, we're gonna send you a case
Oh,
of strawberry Boone's Farm.
oh, but guess what else? You can now throw up in blue and yellow. It comes in 3 flavors to throw up in. It costs them more to ship it to me than it costs for them to buy the wine.
There you go.
I know. And it's still
2020.
screw top, though. So, yeah. So you can still drink it in the middle of the
Yeah,
football.
yeah, easy access, right? With the screw
Yeah.
top, you get it. I got it. I love it. Gene,
What was I
let me ask you a question about your travels again as well. I keep want to go back to that because I think that has shaped so much about who you are. Um, Now, how much time you grew up in Asia? You grew up in Africa. Have you lived outside of there? Have you lived anywhere else besides San Luis Obispo, where you are now, or were those kind of the main 3 locations that you've spent most time in?
No, I lived in Florida, in Virginia, in Montana, a little while in North Carolina,
Okay,
and that's it.
okay. And well, curious, where in Virginia?
In Vienna, right outside of DC. Because
Okay,
when we came back to the States, my dad worked in DC.
okay, okay. Yeah, because we were stationed at Langley in Virginia. So we were in Hampton and the whole Newport News area, and all of my extended family is over in Maryland and DC, Fredericksburg and Richmond, Virginia, that kind of area.
Oh, really? Well, I worked
Yeah.
at Tyson's Corner when I came back to the States. So this is interesting. So I came back to the States. I ended up going to 5 high schools. So I came back and I went to, I needed 1 class to graduate, and American history, because obviously that wasn't offered in the schools overseas. And I had
Hmm.
gone to Taipei American School was my last school overseas.
Okay.
So I found out I needed 1 class to graduate, and the first class of the day was American history. So I knew I could take that. So I went to Tyson's Corner, Farrell's ice cream parlor, and I applied for a job. And I said, I'm going to take American history. Right after that, I can drive over here and work for the day. Okay, so I got the job. So I go to school the day to register,
Yeah.
and they said the class is full. And I said, I'm a senior. Don't I get special privilege? And they go, cheerleaders get special privilege. I
Uh-oh.
went, oh,
Uh-oh.
hell no.
Oh.
So I said, then I'm dropping out of school. And they go, have your parents come in. So I called my mom, and she came in. She goes, that is ridiculous. I said, I know. So we met with the principal, and he said, yeah, tell your daughter she can't drop out. And my mom said, she's going to drop out. That is ridiculous. Why do cheerleaders get preference? Well, he wasn't expecting that.
Right.
So she backed me up, and we go out to the car, and we're looking at each other going, what are you going to do? And I went, I don't know. What are we going to do? So she said, well, you can go to night school. So we went over to the night school, and it was really sketchy. So we were a little scared. And so we went to the school that was in Falls Church. And we said, I know you don't allow like out of district, but this is the situation. And they said, okay. Well, I didn't know anybody in that school. And so I went there for a semester. And then I said to my parents, you know, if I graduate from school in California, then I can be a resident and I can go to school free. So in my senior year, my parents let me move by myself, and I rented a room by myself in California when I was 17, and I graduated from a California school. And when I went out to the school to register, they said, who's your guardian? And I go, I don't have a guardian. So they called my mom, and she goes, ooh, does she have to have one? We didn't think about that. And they go, well, she's supposed to, and I didn't have one. So isn't that crazy?
Little details that were slightly overlooked, but
we totally didn't plan it out. My parents, they were pretty crazy too. So I graduated by myself.
That is insane. See, but that's a story that not everyone can tell. That's a great story too. That you've been there and kind of gone through that. Shipped you all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast to go to school. You had one class to take, and you went to class, which is it was a thing too. I mean, most kids probably I wouldn't have gone to class. I don't know.
I went to watch TV shows filmed almost every day in LA. It was super fun. Yeah, I forgot about that. It was pretty exciting.
Your life is just. I know you've written a book. You got to write another book.
My only life regret is that I didn't keep a journal.
Yeah.
Because we did have some pretty amazing experiences. And my dad didn't always think things through. And we did have some pretty crazy things that happened to us.
Wow.
And my mom actually wore kind of the pants in the family, in that my dad would just suggest these crazy things. And we'd do them. And then my mom would think later, when we first moved to Ethiopia, so here I am, 7, 5, 4, and 1 kids, white blonde hair, early 60s, Ethiopia. We get in my dad's Jeep and we just drive, and we are in the middle of nowhere. There's no roads. Get a flat tire.
Yeah.
So my dad changes it. We continue driving. I mean, there are no roads. A native throws a spear at the tire. No gas stations. So my dad takes the tire off and just hikes looking for something. So we're alone in the car for like 3 hours, and we're singing Girl Scout songs. And there's a big circle of Ethiopians around us just staring at us. And later as adults, we said, Mom, you were so calm. She goes, I wanted to kill your father, but I couldn't let you guys realize that. So my dad finally came back, and there was just, they were looking at us like we were in a zoo, and no one came toward the car. They were just watching us. And I know.
See, you realize that could go in a whole bunch of different directions, right? You're driving in Ethiopia, you flat tire, someone throws a spear at the tire. Wait a minute, what?
I know.
So we could talk about that for an hour, and then you're being circled by the natives as they're like, what is this family doing here? They look a little bit out of place.
I know.
That
And
is
my
hilarious.
sisters both got hepatitis because they were little
Oh,
and they drank water out of the faucet
oh,
outside. And then my dad got malaria, and my mom got calcified pork worms, and she was told not to eat the meat, but she did. And she was
ate it
written up in
anyway
the American Journal of Medicine.
because
And
it got so bad. Is that right?
because they didn't know that you could get calcified pork worms and they'd stay in her arm.
Man, what is going
I
on?
know. I know. But
All
you know
right.
what? Again, the Ethiopians to me are the most beautiful people on earth. They were so lovely to us. And my dad really left a part of his heart when we
Mm.
left there. And again, so kind. And I felt so safe over there. And really, it was a wonderful place to grow up. And I met Haile Selassie.
Really? While you were there?
Yeah, twice. I learned how to curtsy, which is always a good skill to have in your back pocket, just in case.
There you go. There you
Boom.
go. There
I
you go.
know.
little etiquette right there too.
I know. You never know when you're going to have to bow.
Drinking Bones Farm and you got a curtsy.
I
That's
know.
a
I've
good
got
way to
the
say
whole
hello.
etiquette covered.
Gene, I don't know where else to go because I told you again, planning this, I didn't have any ideas in terms of where we would go, but lo and behold, we've talked for 58 minutes right now, and I'm overwhelmed in a great way. You, as always, have just provided insight. You've provided humor. I mean, you're one of the funniest persons on the planet. I would tell you that for sure. And you got to write that book again. Um, Tell us real quickly what's next for you. What's next for Gene? What's next for the organization? Happy People Win, and maybe the other portion of that Happy People Power, or what's next with you coming for the rest of this year, maybe.
I'm kind of going to be status quo, I think, for the rest of the year. And then next year, I'd like to get back. I'd like to do 2 trips next year. I'd like to go back to Bangkok, where I was in junior high, and visit some of the elephant reserves. And I'd like to go back to Ethiopia and Kenya and visit some friends and just catch up. I'm really fortunate, and you've met my mom. She's going to be 89 this year, and I'm so lucky. She is my best friend. She lives next door, and I don't know. Other than that, just continue what I'm doing. I really love my life, and
Mm-hmm.
I live my bucket list. I don't want to be a person who says, when I retire, then the fun starts. I don't want to be that
Yeah.
person. I
Right.
want to, every single day of my life, I want to run wild, which is my book, and I want to visit my friends, and I want to do the things that I love to do.
Amazing.
I don't want to have any regrets.
Living every day to the fullest.
Yep.
And you are, that is, if you look that up in the dictionary, that is definitely you for sure. Gene, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your story. But more importantly, thank you for your friendship. You're an amazing person. You've been an inspiration to my kids, my wife, myself as well, and I know everyone who you touch and you have engagements with in your conversations, your keynotes, your conferences, just walking down the street, they got to walk away with a smile. So for that, I say thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Anytime, anytime. Be well, my friend. I will talk to you soon. We will be down there hanging out on the beach.
Oh, I would
Remember,
love
I got to stay away from the cat though. But I will be there, and we'll hang out again soon.
My
Yeah.
guest room is animal free.
Done.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
coming because you almost killed me last time. But I'll be
I
there.
know. I know. That's not
We
good.
we could talk
I
about
love
that too.
you.
Be good. Bye.
Bye.